Good morning and welcome to the Workers' Day edition of Breakfast Central. Happy Workers' Day to all the workers around Nigeria who are celebrating today. We know it's not the kind of Workers' Day that we wanted because, of course, there's fuel scarcity and a number of challenges which we are going to be looking at this morning. My name is Olive Emodi.
And I'm Osaugi Ogbawan. Yes, happy May 1st, Workers' Day here in Nigeria. And of course, this includes those workers who've lost their jobs at the landmark or beach demolition. Amongst every other person, there's state governments making announcements about improvement in minimum wages. We spoke about this in Edo State yesterday. But of course, what is the reality of the average Nigerian civil servant? These are some of the things that we're going to be, speaking a little bit more about today. Mazino also joins us. Of course, he's joining us with Breakfast Headlines. Good morning, Mazino.
Good morning, Asas. Good morning, Olive. How are you guys doing for Workers' Day Wednesday here?
Well, working.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't get public holidays, so we're here, of course, to speak about these things.
Yes,
and of course, I'm thinking mostly on X-raying what the reality is for the average Nigerian worker in 2024. So from your lens, what do you see?
Well, I see plenty of strife, quite frankly. To be honest, I don't know if Nigerians are absolutely enjoying what you call the Workers' Day. Plenty of people really don't understand what exactly it is or why exactly it's a celebration. But hey, as long as they're concerned, it's a time to rest. Rest is a good thing in Nigeria, especially with everything happening, the fuel scarcity, especially the fuel. Do you guys have petrol in your cars?
No.
Wow.
No.
I do.
Well, I have half tank, but I need more fuel and I need for my generator. But just to say and to add to what you've said, Mazino, we've had a Workers' Day that has been progressively worse each year. I mean, Osagi and I have hosted this show, Workers' Day, I think for 2 years now, and each year we're talking about the challenges the Nigerian workers have. I think we've had it the worst this year in comparison to the past few years. Because the reality of what Workers' Day for Nigerians are, I mean, typically, yes, we don't have holidays, but one of the joys of working on public holidays that the roads are free.
Yeah.
There was traffic today. And there was traffic because of the fuel scarcity and the cars that had to sleep at the filling station, and this traffic spilled from the filling station to the main road. So it's bad enough that Nigerians have to buy it at a very expensive price. I hear that it's gotten to 1,000 naira in some places. Some people are buying black market 2,000 naira per liter. So if it's that expensive and yet you don't have access to products, then there's a problem. So this is not the Workers' Day that Nigerians want. This is not the Workers' Day that Nigerians deserve.
Indeed, you are correct. Actually, yesterday I'll testify to 1,000 naira per liter because I had to buy it at 1,000 naira a liter yesterday just so I could be at work today. It's got me thinking maybe I'll take the offer the UK is extending to immigrants, get £3,000 and go to Rwanda. I don't know.
Yeah, but you have to be in the UK first. You can't do it from.
Then there is that
Lagos.
obstacle.
Then we now talk about the visa fee. That one is another conversation.
So,
Well, the point is to get
relax.
to Rwanda. The point is to get to Rwanda and then come right back again to Nigeria, do it all over again.
Yeah, I mean, well, anyway. But I mean, the positive part of, today being a public holiday is so you can wake up early and go join the queue. So, a win is a win somehow, some way. You can stay in. If everyone's going to work today, there probably wouldn't be time to go join the queue at 6 a.m. So, let's at least be happy for the declaration of public holiday May 1st.
Welcome. Breakfast headlines this morning. Let us begin in West Africa by telling you that the Nigerian government has declared today as a public holiday in commemoration of Workers' Day. This was announced in a press statement signed by the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Interior, Ashetu Ndiyako, on Tuesday. The House of Representatives has passed a resolution to invite the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Heineken Lukbobiri, and his counterpart for the gas sector, Ekperikpe Ekwo, over the fuel scarcity being experienced in the country. The Green Chamber also summoned the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Malik Kyari, over petrol shortages in the country. The Senate has resumed plenary after 6 weeks of recess in the newly renovated hallowed chambers opened over 2 years after the reconstruction began. Shortly after the regular announcement by Senate President Godswill Akpabio, a heated argument ensued between some ranking members over sitting arrangement. Danjuma Goje, a four-time ranking senator representing Gombe Central, and Sahabi Yao, senator representing Zamfara North, expressed displeasure over the back seats assigned to them and complained to the majority leader Okpeyemi Bamidele. The Igbo socio-cultural organization Ohaneze Ndigbo has strongly condemned the recent attack by herdsmen in the Nimbo community, Uzowani local government area of Enugu State, which resulted in the deaths of 4 persons. In a statement on Tuesday by its Secretary General, Mazi Okechukwu Isiguzoro, Ohaneze Ndigbo described the killings as a heinous and deliberate assault on its people, particularly those living in boundary communities. And in East Africa, the first ever migrant to have their asylum seeker claim rejected is said to have been sent to Rwanda from the UK. The unnamed migrant left Britain on Monday evening and has since landed in Kigali. The man whose bid to stay in the UK was rejected in 2023 opted to be relocated to the African country for a new life. In southern Africa now, the remains of 45 Botswanan nationals who perished in a horrific bus crash in Limpopo, South Africa, over Easter are set to be airlifted to Botswana. The bus, which was traveling from Botswana to an Easter pilgrimage in Limpopo, caught fire and burned to ashes, killing 45 people. And magistrates in South Africa have threatened to go on strike over the judicial pay gap between magistrates and judges. According to the association representing 800 magistrates, says its members want the pay gap to be closed as they have not received any increment for many, many years. And that's all for now on Breakfast Headlines. Back to you, Osas and Imordi.
All right. Thanks very much. Interesting stories there. One of them, of course, that caught my attention is the sitting arrangement, causing a ruckus in the National Assembly in the Senate. I'm reading that, or I'm seeing that, and I'm saying that of all the things that Nigerians are currently dealing with, of the reality of how tough it is being a Nigerian, businesses getting shut down, people can't buy petrol, people can't find their way to work, people don't even have jobs. The Nigerian Senate is having issues amongst themselves over sitting arrangements. Like there's a rowdy session. I mean, just imagine what exactly is the focus of the Nigerian Senate at a time like this, at a time when they should be figuring out ways, creating policies, asking people to come speak with them on how to ease the suffering of the Nigerian people. But we're having a ruckus in the Senate over sitting arrangements. It's beautiful to see.
Well, Osa, I think you have to realize the fact that their reality is very different from yours, and ours is very different from the other guy who's inside of a commercial bus. It's all the same thing in any case. I mean, this is the kind of thing you think you'd find inside of commercial buses in Lagos, where people are like, no, I want to sit down in the front seat. But then again, you have it here inside of the Senate. It's a thing of pride. For them, their priorities are very different from yours or anybody else's. I guess, hey, well, what can we say about that? It's human nature.
Congratulations to the Senate. They're really doing a fantastic job. We wish them well, and we thank them for prioritizing the needs of Nigerians, especially as they argue over sitting arrangements. We hope that we'll see more of that. And I hope that Nigerians are watching and seeing the people that they elected, to represent them, and see what they're doing there. They've
kind of always known. It's not news. And, these conversations about high-ranking senators and the likes, and of course, we're talking about senators who have been there for 15, 20 years in the Senate, and can't really point out to much that they've achieved for the people that they represent or for the Nigerian people. So the high-ranking senators, simply because they've been there that long, without really, having much to show for it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how completely out of touch, these people can be, really. But, once again, you said, it's a reality of every Nigerian. I can see a couple of familiar faces there, including my former governor, Adams Oshomole, also there in the sitting arrangement argument.
I wonder where his seat's at.
We'll see you at 9. Thanks a lot for stopping by.
Thank you very much, Seth.
The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps has apprehended suspected members of a cybercrime syndicate. The suspects, who were paraded at the FCT command in Abuja, allegedly impersonated the FCT commandant and other citizens for fraudulent purposes, including online scams and fraudulent activities. News Central's Joshua Imarai completes this report.
Months after the FCT command of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps issued a public alert about a fake Facebook account impersonating the Commandant General of the Corps, the command has successfully apprehended the alleged masterminds behind the fraudulent account.
One of the suspects, Emmanuel Ushiudeb, who was the first to be apprehended by my men after being lured into Abuja, made a very useful confessional statement, which led to the arrest of Henry Uche, his elder brother, who incidentally had the phone used to operate the fake Facebook accounts on him at the point of arrest in Delta State.
Parading the suspects, the commandant listed the items seized from their custody.
The items recovered from the suspect include Money Point POS machine, OPay POS machine, one each, Techno Spark 10 phone, 1, Techno POP8 phone, 1, Infinix phone, 1. However, investigation is ongoing. When it is concluded, they will be prosecuted according to extant law, and we believe that appropriate sanctions will be meted on them.
Sounding his stern warning, he cautioned those engaged in cybercrime to desist from their nefarious activities.
I want to use this opportunity to warn all cyber criminals who specialize in defrauding people of their hard-earned money to find legitimate trade or legitimate source of income to do, because sooner or later, the long arm of the law will catch up with them.
With this latest arrest, the command, in collaboration with other security agencies, is reaffirming its commitment to combating criminality and ensuring peace and security for all. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
All right, thank you very much, Joshua, for that report. It's important that our law enforcement agents continually do great work in terms of apprehending suspects and those who are, suspected of committing crimes such as cyber crimes. But there's an angle that I want to point out, and it's an angle that we see all the time. The angle that it's quite illegal. I don't know if they don't know that it is illegal, or they just want to flex their muscle and show that they're working. And that's the angle of parading suspects before a trial. Now, you go back to the Constitution, the provision of the Constitution, Section 36, subsection 5 of the Constitution provides that a suspect or someone who's deemed to have committed an offense is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So there's a process. They have to go to court, and then the court will prove their innocence. Back then, I know that when we're being taught about identification of clients, of suspects, identification parade was usually done when they're trying to establish a person's, to identify a person. So for example, someone who was a witness to a crime describes who they think committed the crime. They would then bring like 10 people with similar descriptions or mixed descriptions, and then line them up together for that person to point out the person, mix them up again another day, point out the same person, just to be sure that they're not picking out the wrong person. But this action of law enforcement agents where they pick people and they publish their photos, their mugshots, parade them, it's illegal. And I don't know why it is that they're still doing this, so they don't know that it's wrong. I will see this happen many times. The risk therein is that sometimes they could publish the mugshot of an innocent person. We've seen it happen many times. Young boys who are going about their daily business, picked up because they're found with laptops, and they are assumed to be fraudsters, or like they call them in Nigeria, Yahoo boys. And then they take a picture of them, publish the mugshot, and then make it look like, oh, we've arrested suspects of internet fraud and cyber crimes. It's just... Yeah,
I agree, with that. I think it happened a few times, and then, because it continued to receive backlash online and from, concerned Nigerians, so what they then started doing is either blurring their faces or turning, their backs.
Just do your job.
Yeah, so you do have a point, with the whole parading suspects, whole narrative, which I feel like they need to do better with, but I think it's, also part of the whole, show walking, and when there's press around, let's also show the press the work that we're doing, all these things can also be done silently, and we'll keep it moving.
What will even be good is actually speeding up the process of investigating, taking them to court, let them go through trial quickly, and when there's a judgment, you can then do your media rounds and
Yeah.
say, oh, we've been able to arrest, investigate, these people have gone to court and the court has found them guilty and they're going to jail.
Yeah, absolutely, because for now they're not guilty of anything. You know, they're only suspected of, you know, these crimes. But it's also, you know, important, you know, to mention that there has been an increase, you know, in some of these activities. People impersonating EFCC, impersonating army personnel, impersonating even bank customer service pages online. We've seen if you go online and make a complaint, you know, to maybe on Twitter, you know, about a bank transaction or something, you'll see some fake accounts, you know, come to your DMs, you know, and ask to offer assistance. It's a fake account of the bank, and of course they're trying to scam you. So there's still a couple of these elements in society that I hope that they are all, you know, arrested. There's still obviously the Cybercrime Act that is still in place, and so a lot of these people need to be, you know, stopped. Because people are losing their, you know, their life savings. People are losing their hard-earned money.
People are losing their lives because there are people that have the money they will use, their pensions. Haven't you seen all those old women? I was in the bank one day and my heart broke. This lady, she had been, someone cleared her account and they didn't want to tell her because they were afraid of how she would accept it. They said, oh, madam, hold on. And then I asked one of the staff, is her money still intact? And the person said no, but we're just looking for the right way to tell her.
Yeah, I mean, so it's factual, you know, that there is a lot of hacking going on. There's a lot of, you know, these cyber, you know, crimes going on. Impersonations are going on also. And you know, like I said, it's impersonation of top-ranking government officials. The NSCDC chairman, EFCC operatives have been impersonated multiple times in the past. Army, police, you know, so these things happen. But, you know, I do agree with you once again. Parading suspects, you know, is maybe not the way to go.
Yes, and then again, just to still say that we applaud them for doing the work of arresting and, you know, doing the investigation. We want to see more of that. But more importantly, we want to see more of these suspects going through the right procedures in court and having their day in court, and the guilty ones being found guilty and sent to prison. Away from that, let's talk about the current situation in the country where there has been the fuel scarcity and its implications on Nigerians. Here in Lagos, Nigeria, there have been queues that have not just stopped at the filling station, but have also extended to the roads, causing traffic on the main road. So not only do Nigerians have to deal with the lack of product they're buying at exorbitant fares, not just at the filling station, but also in the black market. And they now also have to deal with traffic caused by the fuel scarcity. I will be joined by our correspondent in Abia State, Chinwe Ogele, to tell us what the situation is regarding fuel scarcity in Abia State. She's joining us live from Umuahia. Good morning, Chinwe. Talk to us about, first of all, Happy Workers' Day. What's the situation like in Abia State? It's fuel scarcity, a dire situation here. Is that the reality as well in Abia State?
Good morning to you. The situation is quite different here, even though people are beginning to feel that it's a possibility since it's happening in Lagos and Abuja. But here in Abia State, the product is available. I can tell you that people just drive into filling stations, purchase their product and go. So where the only places where you see a kind of a little queues are those places where they sell at lower rates, you know, but then there are no really queues. So the situation here is quite different, but then also you notice that some filling stations are hoarding, they are beginning to hoard. So because when they go days without products, you suspect that it's likely they are waiting to see what happens, you know, in future. So the situation here is quite different. There's no queue, there's no scarcity. People still go to the filling stations to, you know, buy whatever products they wish.
Do you have any ideas, you know, what it is like in other parts of the Southeast?
The situation is the same. The only thing is that the rates have increased, you know, in some filling stations. Even in those other places where they do not, they sell at lower rates, there's really no difference if you want to look at it from a real perspective, because when a filling station sells below 700 Naira, and then you buy 10 liters from there and go to another filling station where they sell at 750 and buy 10 liters, you'd really not see any much difference in the, you know, quantity that you've purchased. So it's just a matter of people, marketers deciding how they run their businesses, because people are beginning also to question the issue of regulation. If the marketers are being regulated properly, I do not think that it will be different what we get. You know, the meters, they adjust them in such a way that you don't get value for your money. So for people now down here, it's not even an issue of how much you sell. It is an issue of what you get at the end of the day after buying. So the issue of regulation is what people are worried about.
And this scarcity that is currently not in Abia State, which we hope doesn't extend there, is that, I want you to give us like a scorecard of how it's been this year, the availability of fuel this year, because our reality here in Lagos, Nigeria, and in some parts of the country, Abuja, I believe, has been that we've seen a fuel scarcity at least once every month. Is that the reality that you have experienced in Abia State as well, or is it completely different?
We've seen scarcity in the state, I think twice this year, and they were all artificial. They weren't real scarcity. So the people here do not believe that it's real. I personally don't believe that those times that there were a scarcity, that because the products were not available, it was because the people here, the marketers, believe that for a reason they need to, okay, the other time the reason they gave was because the tankers were on strike. I think that was one of the times we had scarcity here. I can't remember what caused the other one, but there just been few times when we experienced scarcity here. The products are available, but what people have to grapple with right now is the cost of the petrol, and then the quality of what they are buying. If the quantity is commensurate with the amount of money they are paying, and again, the quality of the product itself, because they say these days, some people say these days, the petrol or the fuel dries, faster. So they're also calling that for the government to look into that and see what actually is being sold to consumers.
All right. I think a quick question for me would also be generally on Abia State. Governor Alex Oti, what is the approval rating so far? He, of course, came into office and a lot of people were excited. There, of course, was talk about 24-hour electricity in some parts of Abia State. Are all these things still in place? Does he still have a high approval rating among the citizens in Abia?
Well, that is to also talk about the report I sent in yesterday concerning the road infrastructure that the government has embarked upon since 11 months that it's been in office. People actually rate this government high, because they want to compare it with the past administrations that have been in existence, had been in existence in the state. And they feel he's doing well in the area of payment of salaries, regular payment of salaries, and the fact that he's embarked on those number of roads and completed at least 70 of them, and some are still ongoing. On the issue of the electricity, the Aba Geometric Spa was launched some months ago, and currently as it is, some parts of that city are yet to enjoy the availability of power as promised. Unfortunately, so the people affected the most are those who need them for their businesses, those who are into production or manufacturing of one thing or the other. But then some parts of Aba do testify that they enjoy electricity, up to 18 hours a day. Some people say theirs never even go off at all.
So is there anyone that has gotten to 24 hours?
Yes, in fact, someone said they have light 48 hours, so whatever that means. So some parts say they enjoy 24 hours. In fact, that for weeks, someone I interviewed said for weeks, her light didn't go off, until it rained one day like that.
So my final question would be that, is it safe to say that the workers in Abia State are happy? Or how do they feel? What's the general feel today as we celebrate Workers' Day?
You know, I'll be going out in a while to get their feel. But before now, you know what? Their major complaint is not the salary because it's been regular. Their problem is the allowances, old allowances from the previous administrations, which this government promised to offset upon assumption of office. So I believe that will be coming to the fore today in the discourses that they are going to have, you know, where they are celebrating. So that's part of the problem they're having. And again, some secondary school teachers in the state are still being owed arrears of salaries, you know, running into several months. So that I believe they will also talk about. But since he came on board, all he's done is that he's kept to his promise of regular payment of salaries, but then workers still want him to offset all the ones he inherited because actually he promised he was going to do all of that.
All right. Chinwe Ogele, thank you so much for joining us and all the best as you head out soon and happy Workers' Day to you.
I wish you the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Away from that, the federal government has approved a salary increase of between 25% and 35% for civil servants on the remaining 6 consolidated salary structures. This move was contained in a Tuesday statement by the head of press at the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, NSIWC, Emmanuel Njoku, on the eve of the 2024 Workers' Day event.
The salary structure, which includes the Consolidated Public Service Salary Structure, CON-PSS, Consolidated Research and Allied Institutions Salary Structure, the Consolidated Police Salary Structure, Consolidated Paramilitary Salary Structure, Consolidated Intelligence Community Salary Structure, and Consolidated Armed Forces Salary Structure. Similarly, the federal government has also approved increase in pensions between 20% and 28% for pensioners on the defined benefit scheme concerning the above-mentioned 6 consolidated salary structures. And of course, you know, it feels like it's salary increase wind blowing across, you know, the country. There were rumors about it happening in Lagos, you know, but of course that was eventually denied and debunked, you know, by the Lagos state government, increasing minimum wage to 70,000 naira. And the Edo state government, of course, you know, made theirs, though it came with its own bits of controversy, saying that, you know, I mean, first of all, the loans that had been taken to pay salaries, and then, you know, many people ascribed the increment of to 70,000 naira minimum wage as just a last move to make because the elections are, you know, in just a couple of months away. So, it has come with the controversy. But, you know, for those of them who have been mentioned in these categories, I'm sure that they will be celebrating the salary increase, you know, by the federal government. So congratulations to them on the Workers' Day gift.
Anyway, we would of course talk more about this and find out exactly how the Nigerian Labour Congress is feeling about this and what the thoughts are. Very shortly, we'll be talking about tackling corruption and the ICPC, the role that he has played in uncovering over 219 billion naira looted funds after this very short break. Welcome back. The Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, ICPC, and its Constituency and Executive Projects Tracking Group, CEPTG, has uncovered a total of 219.844 billion naira from 176 ministries, departments, and agencies since 2019. According to the chairman of the commission, Adamu Aliyu SAN, the monitoring, which spanned across 26 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, focused on critical sectors including agriculture, education, healthcare, and infrastructure.
The chairman of the commission highlighted the results, stating that 1,721 government-funded projects were monitored during the Phase 6 tracking cycle, and that the commission is looking into some of the breaches that were found. If you recall, in June 2023, the ICPC uncovered National Assembly members' uncompleted constituency projects worth over 45 billion naira. September 2022, the ICPC discovered that 13.59 trillion naira 2021 budget was padded by various ministries, departments, and agencies with duplicated projects worth 300 billion naira. And despite all of this, the country is in debt, and most projects are still not completed. This morning, we have public affairs analyst Dayo Akintobi joining us in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
Not really shocking. I don't think anybody, you know, hears these types of stories this morning and, you know, their jaws on the floor. What might only vary is the the disparity in the numbers. We're talking about 219 billion, 300 billion, 45 billion. But where exactly do you think is the major problem here? Is it with the allocation funds? Is it with lack of auditing, or where exactly?
Well, the ICPC talks about transparency, accountability, and issues of fighting corruption by tracking projects that are government funded. Now, these projects over time have both been constituency projects and projects by the executive. And in its remit, its enabling law, the ICPC is meant to track public sector corruption to make sure that government monies that are allocated to certain projects are used as intended. And over the years, they set up a committee to track these projects. And by tracking them, what they mean is they actually go to the sites to see if the projects are being implemented. They look at the amount of money that was budgeted to see if it makes any sense to reality in terms of whether the value was inflated. They track the projects to make sure that they are making progress and they're not just phantom projects. Yes. And this report they've come out with basically says in the last 5 years of tracking about 1,700 projects, they found lapses here and there. Lapses that include things like abandoned projects, projects that have been overinflated in cost, projects that have been awarded to cronies and family members of the sponsoring legislators. Yes. This is in terms of the constituency process. So they've come out with a pretty damning report that shows that corruption is still very, very much alive in Nigeria, and it is a hydra-headed monster that really needs to be contended with.
I mean, this is not the first time that the ICPC has released a report like this that is damning. Having followed up with 1,721 projects and seen all of this, I mean, if I look at you've summarized a lot of what the explanations are, but we're seeing here underperformed projects, shoddily executed projects, abandoned projects, certification of projects as completed when such projects have not been completed, and hoarding of projects such as empowerment projects meant to be distributed to beneficiaries. So seeing as this isn't the first time that we're seeing this, what are your hopes that there would be any action taken as a result of these damning reports? Looking back at all the other reports that they've released in previous times and the trajectory of how things run here in our country, do you have any hope that there will be actions taken as a result of this report?
Well, the new head of the ICPC is making all the right noises and seems to want to revitalize the agency. Historically, in the last 2 or 3 administrations, the ICPC has been described as a toothless bulldog. It barks more than it bites, and generally it seems to be playing to the gallery when it releases all these reports because there's no follow-up. We've not heard of anybody being prosecuted. We've not heard of anybody being jailed. We've not really heard of any punishment. They just come up and they say, oh, we've identified this lapse here, we've identified this money. They seem to relish more in the role of being a funds recovery agent.
Okay, whereby funds
announcing. Yeah, they like to beat their chest a lot about the fact that, oh, we've identified this and we've recovered this much for the government. We've driven these contractors back to site from abandoned projects. But those don't serve as a deterrent, which goes to answer your question, Oliver, is that how do we discourage this type of behavior, especially in public sector administration, where it's money that should go to enhance the betterment of the average or the struggling Nigerian. Most of these, especially constituency projects, are designed to improve the lot of the Nigerians that are most vulnerable, especially in rural areas. You see things like bore wells, you see things like transformers, you see water reclamation projects, things that the everyday Nigerian needs for a better quality of life, and to find that the money is now diverted or is under spent, is less than what should be spent, it diminishes the essence of governance. And so we'd like to see the ICPC, which really is kind of like the orphan stepchild to its sister agency, the EFCC, who gets a lot more accolades and a lot more public recognition. So I think the new chairman of the ICPC recognizes the fact that the ICPC has been underperforming and is underwhelmed in the perception of the public, and he's trying to change that perception. He's talking to the media a lot more. He's holding more training sessions for his cadets, and he's organizing programs to make the ICPC more effective. So perhaps in the coming months and years, we'll see the IPC being more productive.
Yeah, I mean, but it basically underscores the fact that when we claim to be fighting corruption, we're deceiving ourselves. When the Nigerian government claims to be fighting corruption, it's all just a masquerade dance that achieves absolutely nothing. But we're going to come back to this. We want to follow up on petrol scarcity conversations and see what's going on in Delta State this morning. Austin Azu is live on ground. Good morning, Austin.
Yeah, good morning.
All right. Tell us, what the situation is where you're currently located.
I'm currently in Asaba. I'm standing on the Benin-Onitsha Expressway here in Asaba. Behind me is a filling station dispensing here to motorists. However, the queue is not as long as any other places. But from what we can see from here, it means the PMS is readily available and there are no queue here in this filling station. But yesterday during our survey, we went around Asaba to find out as well. The same thing that we are seeing here, it's the same thing we saw yesterday. So there's not much scarcity Asaba at the moment. However, most of them are still selling above the pump price. Some are selling $690, while some are selling almost $700. Depends on the filling station you are able to get your fuel. But from the moment at this point in time, we have very limited persons here who want to get their fare. So you can see from yourself behind this on the screen that the queue is quite small compared to other places in Nigeria where you have a long queue of vehicles trying to get fare.
Yeah.
All right. Austin, also just to double check, I know you mentioned something concerning the price. Do you have a range of what it costs in the filling stations? I don't think we got that very clearly. At the filling stations as well as in the black market, what's the price range looking like?
Yeah, the price we are looking at is between the range of $695. Some are dispensing at $685, while some are dispensing at $700. It depends on the filling station. Well, at the moment, at the black markets now, we're in Asaba, for instance, the black markets are not readily visible around the state cap, within the state
because there are no
capital,
queues, right?
Except, sorry?
I said because there aren't queues, right?
Yes.
All
there
right.
are no queue.
Okay.
Oh, good
Have you
news.
spoken to any, just quickly, have you spoken to any of the motorists, to get their views on how they are dealing with, buying petrol at $690?
Yes, yesterday we spoke to some of them and they actually expressed displeasure about some of the situations at hand. It's really unfortunate that some of these motorists, some of them who have earlier, converted their vehicle to gas, but right now they are converting back to the PMS. So they said that the gas is quite expensive for them to get, so they are now coming back to the petrol. But this point in time that there are already rumors that PMS has increased in other places. There are some of these filling stations have started taking advantage of that. So what they do is that you hot the fare and wait till a period of time before they will sell. So we don't know what will be the next situation in Asaba and environs because of what the fillers most of these filling stations are getting across the country.
All right. Austin, thanks a lot for sharing with us. We hope that, of course, things remain calm over there. We'll speak with you again pretty soon.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Have a nice day.
We're still, of course, having a conversation this morning with public affairs analyst Dayo Akintobi. And, of course, it is on the ICPC's recovery of 219 billion naira, which it had tracked from different ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government in the last couple of years. I did, of course, mention earlier that, it seems like we're not really fighting corruption. We, of course, make one arrest Bobrisky here, be chased for abusing the naira, and eventually realize absolutely nothing. And this really is a time to x-ray what exactly goes on in the Federal Capital Territory, with people walking around with contract documents, seeking contracts here and there from friends, family members, senators, and their cousins, and not just in the FCT, across all the states in the Federation. And, people using catering business companies to do contracts in road repairs and and the likes. And this exactly goes on across the whole country, as long as you know one person or the other in government. The NDDC, if you remember, just before Conde fainted during the summons, there were different reports about the hundreds of billions of naira that had gone through the NDDC unaccounted for. So I want your thoughts on this self-deceit every government comes in with with the fight against corruption.
Well, you don't have to look too far, really. Let's just look at the ICPC report. It says that over 5 years of tracking projects, constituency projects, executive projects, they have viewed 219 billion naira worth of projects. Well, on an annual basis, the House of Representatives and the Senate combined have 195 billion naira worth of constituency projects allocated to them. Remember that fight recently in the Senate where I think it was Ningi was talking about 500 million in projects is allocated to the ranking members of the Senate and so on. Total for the Senate is 90 billion every year in the budget. Total for House of Representatives is 100 billion. So in 1 year, there's 190 billion worth of constituency projects allocated to the National Assembly. In 5 years, ICPC has managed to view 219 billion worth. That's just slightly over 1 year's worth of allocation to the National Assembly members. Out of that 219 billion, it says it has recovered about 600 odd million in cash and assets, and 30 billion of contractors have been sent back to site. It's a pittance, it's a joke if you look at the numbers. That 665 million out of 219 billion is less than half of 1%. So how are we seriously fighting corruption? The numbers don't show a commitment. The numbers don't show a concerted effort to wrestle this monster.
Actually, let's even, according to the report by, I think, the cable, let's bring it that. It's not that 600, I think you're even merging cash and asset recovery.
Yes, I said so. I said cash and assets.
Because cash alone is 163 million, 163 million out of 290
Which
billion.
makes it even worse, makes the point all the more poignantly that this is not really a wholehearted effort at fighting this. It's just playing to the gallery and making it look like we're doing something. So perhaps we're working hard, but we're not working efficiently because there's no real political will to fight this thing. We're just making a show of the fact that we're trying to do something about it. So what's the way forward? Well, for one thing, I don't think the ICPC is independent enough. I think because its budget is dependent on the approval of the very people that it's investigating. Those who do its budget and approve its allocation are the very people it's trying to bring to book. So, of course, it has that natural fear that if it persecutes or prosecutes these people,
back to bite them.
It'll come back to
and
bite
that's something
them.
that we see not just with the ICPC, we see that in several sectors. Yesterday we were talking about the judiciary and how there have been clamors for the powers that have the administrative powers of the CGN to be separated, to sort of give people, reduce the powers that he has. There's also been the conversation about the role that the executive has to play in appointing of judges. So how do you expect that they will be completely independent in their judgments if they are influenced in a way by the executive? So now that's a great suggestion, but do we even see this happening? This fight against corruption has become so deeply ingrained in our systems. It's in the little things, in people saying, oh, I'll give you 10% of my project if you can move my file up. You know, little things we see here and there. Will we ever get to the point where it will not be a fight that is so brazen, like a fight that is so, I mean, I feel like we feel sort of defeated right now. Is that a position that you see?
Institutional corruption derives from individual corruption. And I think you alluded to that. I'll give you 10% to move my file up. I'll pay the policeman 100 naira to look the other way when my car papers are not complete. So we ourselves fuel corruption on an individual level which then escalates to institutional levels. Because remember, those who are actively practicing corruption in the public sector, they are from they're our people, they are us. So, you know, you look in the mirror and you see ourselves. And so until we ourselves reorient our thinking and our values, I think our value system is completely warped. Yeah. And I don't think we can flush out corruption institutionally if we don't begin to address it from the individual level. It's that simple.
All right, we need to move to other things, you know, and just to mention, you know, that I'm also aware, I've heard rather, that there's people who live in the FCT and their business in the FCT is really just establishing fake companies with which to divert funds. You know, that's what they do. You know, if you ask them, you know, for how do you make your money, you know, they'll tell you in secret that all you need to do is have a company, you know, a fake company that can chest 500 million or $1 billion naira.
It's not just even here in Lagos.
Even here in Lagos, you know, you have a company that, you know, can take 500 million naira contract, that kind of thing, and, you know, they pass it through your account, you give them their percentage, you hold your percentage, you know, somebody takes the bulk of the money, everybody goes home happy. But, I mean, let's talk a little bit more about petrol and other issues. The IPMAN, of course, you know, is in the news again this morning due to unpaid bridging claims of 200 billion naira. The Independent Petroleum Market Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, has announced its decision to halt the supply of petrol. Petrol prices have skyrocketed as a result of the present statewide gasoline shortage, reaching as high as 610 to 800 naira at pump stations and between 1,000 naira and 1,200 naira in the black market.
In a statement released on Tuesday, the 30th of April, Mazi Oliver Okolo, the unit chairman and spokesperson of IPMAN's Aba Depot, expressed his dissatisfaction, I beg your pardon, with the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission's NMDPRA failure to settle the debt. IPMAN says that no action has been done in the response to directions from Heineken Lopobiri, the Petroleum Minister of Oil, pushing the Commission to clear the 200 billion naira debt. As a result, IPMAN decided to take extreme actions. So it feels like every other day we're having a fuel scarcity. This year alone, I want to believe we've had at least one fuel scarcity every month. So Nigerians are living in a state of trauma. We all have jerry cans in our boots of our vehicles, knowing that every opportunity you have to stock up because any minute it can be fuel scarcity. What's your take on, you know, the constant fuel scarcity and the recent threat of IPMAN to shut down?
Well, when the new administration came in, and of course the whole brouhaha about the fuel subsidy removal, the perception at that time was that at least the fuel would be available. It would be expensive, but it would be available. And we as Nigerians were resilient people, were willing and happy to live with that as long as the fuel was available. So now you have a double negative. It's expensive and you can't find it. That's a big problem because at that point, Nigerians are no longer tolerant. It's one thing for it to be expensive and readily available in as much as it drives inflation and all the other aspects of our lives, but as long as we have it to buy, we're willing and ready to deal with the hardship. But when it's expensive and you can't find it, on my way to the studio this morning, I'm passing queues that are 4 and 5 miles long, a couple of 100 cars in each queue, and some stations are not even selling. So I understand the arguments back and forth and the technicalities and the methodologies and the funding and the bridging loan has not been paid. Nigerians don't want to hear excuses. It's a little bit too much already. And we're at a point, we're almost at breaking point. Like you said, this is about the 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th episode or instance of scarcity this year alone. And it's got to the point where when you compound that with all of the other issues we are contending with, it's really unbearable. So as far as we're concerned as Nigerian citizens, we want the government to find a way out to this problem. We've been told that the fastest and most straightforward way to resolve this issue is to get the refineries up and running. That's what we've been told from a layman's perspective, somebody who is not an oil and gas expert. Common sense tells me that if Warri, Kaduna, and Port Harcourt refineries are functional, we will have fuel, it'll be readily available, and it'll be affordable. So whatever it is, whatever bugbear it is that's stopping those refineries from running and churning out fuel, whether it's an issue of selling them off, whether it's privatizing them, whether it's sabotage, we don't care. All we know is if those refineries, in addition to the Dangote refinery, if they're producing at optimum capacity, this problem would disappear overnight. So that's what we want government to focus on. How do we get this done?
So do you think it is intentional, you know, that they have maybe just left the refineries, in the state that they are.
I did mention
had repeated
sabotage.
promises.
I did mention sabotage. Yeah, remember just before the outgone administration went, it
Yes.
swore that I think was it Warri would be up and running,
yes.
and they even did a commissioning, although they called it mechanical commissioning
Yes.
at that point. And we were asking, what's mechanical? They turned the lights on, they cut ribbon, they said it was good to go. Till today, not one drop of fuel has come out of that refinery. So there is some propaganda, there is some being economical with the truth about what the situation is on the part of the administration. But what we know is that the refineries are not producing. Some people have alleged sabotage. They say, the diesel suppliers, the generator suppliers, the parts suppliers don't want us to ever have proper fuel and all the other things that give us energy because their businesses will be negatively impacted. So the coercive apparatus of government has the wherewithal, if it has the political will,
Yes.
to investigate and bring and arrest, bring to submission whatever forces could be conspiring to stop the average Nigerian man from being able to enjoy a good quality of life, which begins with the ability to buy fuel, get electricity, and all those other elements that sustain a good quality of life. If we start with electricity and petrol, and we get those two right, whatever administration does that will write its name in the hearts of Nigerians
I agree.
into perpetuity.
I agree. Just, do you have any faith, from your perspective, in what we currently have in government, federal, state, everywhere, but mostly federal?
In its ability to do what? To deliver the dividends
on
of
anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
Well,
To improve on the quality of life of the average Nigerian in the next 4 years, to give us something.
well, as a journalist, I try to be not partisan, so I'm not looking from a party perspective. But if we look at from 1999 to 2024 and the different governments that have administered and led this country, each one has had its highs and its lows. Each one has tried to put its best foot forward and do what in its own wisdom is best for the people of Nigeria. I don't believe that any government has come in that is entirely malevolent and is coming in with the view of enhancing itself and diminishing the average Nigerian. I think each one has a good motive, but implementation sometimes can be less than what is desired. So the present...
That's a fair argument, right? It may not be my intention in the next 4 or 8 years is to diminish quality of life of Nigerians,
Absolutely.
but it can still be achieved.
Of course.
If you are, running government, almost the same way the Buhari administration was run. Nigerians would argue that the quality of life between 2014 and 2023 is a complete far cry from what they would ever have imagined, to experience. And so maybe that's not what they came in with. That's not our plan. But of course, we mismanage everything. We put the wrong people in power. We didn't sack people when they failed. We continue to misuse our budget. We continue to take loans. So what I'm asking about this one now is we have another 4 years, maybe 8. Does it seem, that they already have put things, or they have an idea of the things that will be done? Do you see 2027 as a year that Nigerians would say, okay, well, we seem to be on the right path?
A good barometer to determine how a government is doing is by asking yourself, am I better off today? Which is what you alluded to. Am I better off today than I was 4 years ago? And I want to put it to you that since 1999, that percentile has been reducing precipitously.
Yes.
Such that where we were in 1999, in 2003, we were worse off. 2007, we were even worse off. So I think with each incremental period of democracy, our lives are not improving. Whether that will now change with this administration, I sincerely doubt. Why? Because it's the same players, it's the same playbook, it's the same value system, it's the same approach to governance. So I don't see any radical U-turn or radical renaissance that we will wake up one day tomorrow and our lives, this Nigeria will suddenly be a land of milk and honey. I think that there has to be a complete restructuring. I hate to use that word in this concept, in this context, but when I say restructuring, what I mean is down to even the Constitution, down to our political system. There are questions to be asked. We need to interrogate issues. Is the presidential system better for us than, say, perhaps a parliamentary? Do we need a regional system? Do we need to devolve powers from the center to the subnationals? There are very many questions to ask in terms of what it would take to begin to really have a government that will satisfy the needs and the desires
and very valid questions
of all
that you've
Nigerians.
raised, but I don't see that a number of these people are interested in those kind of questions.
Not at all.
You know, I don't see that happening. But Nigerians can only hope for the best.
Absolutely.
That's what we will hope for. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Pleasure and honor are all mine.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us to review the papers this morning, and just to say that you indeed are going to be our analyst today. Join us online. The numbers to call are on your TV screen. If you'd like to react to any of the stories, drop a comment. The numbers to call are on your TV screens. We want to hear from you and want you to be a part of the conversation. We begin this morning with this Nigerian newspaper. On the front page of this Nigerian newspaper, senators' temper rise over sitting arrangements at the red chambers. Akpabio says, Senate ready to solve nation's problems. For me, it's the contrast. On the one hand, they're saying senators' tempers rise over, we'll come back to talk about it. Let's just go through the headlines. May Day, sad day as workers groan under hardship. Fuel, food, electricity crisis compound poor wages. Federal government approves 35% increase for civil servants. Petrol hits 1,000 naira per litre in parts of Lagos. Commuters weep. Marketers threaten to withdraw services over alleged 200 billion naira debt. FCT Minister reinforces partnership with Japanese agency. Abuja Metro Council threatens to blacklist defaulting street light contractors. EFCC grills 13 suspected oil thieves in Lagos. Nigeria's VAT collection lowest in Africa, says Speaker. Now, let's just let you know the numbers to call. We'll be displaying the number to call on your TV screen. Call and share your thoughts on any of the story. And I think we'll be starting off with the story that talked about the senators having an issue regarding sitting arrangements, and just below that story, we're seeing that they said that they are ready. Osauge, what are your thoughts regarding the contrasts of the headlines? I mean, two contrasting headlines. How do you say that, in one breath, that you are fighting over sitting arrangements, and right below it, you're talking about being ready to make,
I mean, they could be ready right after fighting. It's not, it doesn't stop them, from being ready. But of course, let them first of all be able to sit, and get their seats well. I said this earlier, that it really just shows the frame of mind and the mindset of the people who, of course, representing Nigerians in the National Assembly. If these are the kind of things that bother them, if they are still calling themselves high-ranking and low-ranking senators. And like I said earlier, the idea of a high-ranking senator is not necessarily because he's the one that has contributed the most, to the National Assembly or improved the life. It's the longest time you've been there. So Ike Ekweremadu, before, of course, he had this UK ordeal. I've been there for about, I think, 24 years or so in the National Assembly. Ahmad Lawan has been there for more than 20 years also. So there are some of these people who see themselves as high-ranking senators because of the length of time, but cannot use that same length of time to boast that in the time that I've been in the National Assembly, these are the things that I've achieved for the people that I represent, in different local governments or senatorial districts across the country. They cannot boast and say, okay, these are the bills that I've pushed in the National Assembly.
A number of them haven't sponsored one bill.
Exactly.
Since they got into
these are the bills that I've pushed in the National Assembly for the last 24 years or 20 years that have greatly changed or improved the lives of the average Nigerian, So they're just high-ranking senators because, well, we've been able to figure out a way to continue to win re-election every 4 years, and remain in the National Assembly. That's it, and nothing more. And at a time like this, when Nigerians, and of course that's the main story there, the May Day story you see on your screen, sad day as workers groan under hardships on this Nigeria. The thing is, when you see this, you realize, the question for me is, what exactly do Nigerians, where do we think we're going with all of this?
Well,
these things that the government has put in place and made things extremely hard, is there like a light at the end of the tunnel that we're getting to?
There should have been a light at the end of the tunnel, but they've taken off electricity subsidy, and the light at the end of the tunnel is like banned.
All right, Chidi, good morning.
Good morning, Chidi.
Good morning. Happy Workers' Day.
Thank you. Happy Workers' Day to you as well. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to speak on the story that probably you said the Senate are ready. This is this is another thing again. We keep on talking on Akpabio's behavior on that Senate. He kept making some statement that gives Nigerians worry. How can you say we are ready? So all this while that they have been there, so they have not been ready to do anything. It is now they want to be ready. Nigeria has a lot of problems to solve. They are telling us of the sitting arrangement inside the Senate. Is that Nigeria problem? The Senate, if they are not ready, please, Nigeria, look, we ourselves don't even want to help ourselves. The Senate keep on doing things that we will be looking. People we sent to represent us, they are not telling us that they're having issues in their sitting arrangement. Is that a Nigerian problem? Is that our average man problem? Oh, they are not ready all this while. They want to be ready now. People are crying fuel subsidy. There's no fuel, and we're even buying it in a high cost. Instead of them to talk about how to do something for the average Nigerian to be happy, so that they can go for their daily work activities. Look at students are going to schools. Parents to even take children to schools. There is no fuel. There is no way to get fuel to buy so that they can take children to school. Many parents and children, they don't go to school these days because the fuel scarcity is disturbing. Please, let Akpabio go back and sit down and try to put things in his cabinet and, let them stop Nigerian problem and stop telling us about the sitting arrangement. We don't want to hear that. Please, God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Chidi, for calling. Akpabio, of course, and the Senate have a lot of work to do. It would seem that they're very removed from the reality that Nigerians are experiencing. Yep. None of them have to queue this morning for fuel. I'm pretty sure they don't have to queue. They don't have to...
You're talking about this morning. These are people that have not joined a fuel queue in at least 20 years. They have no business with...
Well, 20 years might be pushing it.
No, because a lot of them didn't just get into the Senate.
For those who have been the high-ranking ones.
Yes. Yeah, the high-ranking ones. Akpabio has been governor. So Akpabio definitely hasn't seen a petrol queue in at least 20 years.
And that's what gives me concern, because usually it's easier to be able to fix certain problems because you've experienced it. If you've experienced, you're able to empathize with what you understand. And I don't think that a number of these people understand the challenges that Nigerians are going through. They don't have to queue for fuel. They don't have to be stuck in traffic. A number of them have their abopos that will come and clear the road with the siren.
They understand.
They're not feeling the challenges that we're going through.
Yeah, they may not be feeling it, but it's not because they don't understand it. It is because their priorities are not necessarily the Nigerian people. Their priorities in that seat in the Senate is not because they hope that in the time they are there, they will push bills and make laws and deliberate on issues that will improve greatly on the lives of the average Nigerian. They will interrogate issues that will improve on the life of the average Nigerian. That's not necessarily why they believe that they are there. And so, regardless of how much they understand that Nigerians are groaning and suffering and people are almost committing suicide, it's not necessarily the thing that moves them the most. So, they would enjoy their time there. And after 4 years, they will seek re-election and, continue to stay there. There are people who failed woefully as governors, woefully in big capital letters, but right after that went to the National Assembly and became senators. So it's not because they also don't know that they failed as governors. They know, but their goal is not because of the Nigerian people or the people that they serve, and that's why they went ahead from being governor to the National Assembly, to the Senate. Is a
retirement plan for a number of governors.
Exactly.
So after having served your 8 terms, because it's no longer your 8 years in office and your 2 terms, you then go and retire and spend the rest of your life in the National Assembly. Nigerians need to wake up and ensure that we are asking our senators and our representatives the right questions and kicking those out of office, who are not doing the work that they need to do. Anyway, let's move away from this Nigerian newspaper. The big headline on this Nigerian newspaper, I'm sure, is something that is reflected in other papers as well. So let's check our second paper for this morning. We're looking at
Daily Independent, I believe. Yes, all right. It says federal government approves 35% salary increase for civil servants. Lingering impact of fuel subsidy cut reveals federal government ineptitude, says Atiku Abubakar, the PDP's presidential candidate. Says Nigerians subsidizing corruption and inefficiencies in the system. APC should address hardship, not who occupies Aso Rock in 2027. You can also see here South governors seek comprehensive review of power sector. I think they really need to. The distribution companies, handling the southern parts of the country are a complete mess. Reps ask NERC to halt new electricity tariff hike. NBA gives federal government 7 days to reverse tariff hike. Speaker decries significant inefficiencies in tax system. And also APC leaders seek extension of suspension order on Ganduje. May Day, Labour Party decries unfair worker practices in Nigeria And also 200 billion naira bridging claims. Amid fuel scarcity, Ipman threatens to shut down outlets. We did speak about this earlier. Of course, federal government to repatriate over 6,000 Nigerian refugees from Chad and Cameroon. We spoke a little bit about the Ipman, and of course the threats to once again throw Nigerians into more petrol scarcity. And of course, it sounds like as if Nigerians aren't dealing with enough. And it almost is a 1 week, one trouble situation that we're dealing with in Nigeria. But of course, to maybe cushion some of these suffering, the federal government has approved a 35% salary increase for civil servants. So if you're watching us this morning and you maybe are excited about this 35% increase for civil servants, let us know, how this, excites you, if this will be make any difference in your current economic realities as a Nigerian civil servant, if this will even move the needle a little bit or absolutely irrelevant to your current economic realities. How do you survive as a Nigerian worker on May Day, the 1st of May? How do you survive with the current economic realities of being in Nigeria? An increased power cost, increased petrol cost, increased transportation, increased cost of food and services. So all of these things increasing without any actual increase in your income as the average Nigerian. And so, these are maybe one of the reasons that the federal government has decided to do this. And we're hoping that it maybe would improve, or at least will benefit a few people here or there. Labour Party once again decries unfair worker practices in Nigeria. And also, once again, reps ask NERC to halt new electricity tariff hike. It might be too late, because I don't know that they're going to reverse, or the NERC is going to reverse the tariff hike. I did complain, and I think our guest earlier, made mention that what we are seeing is promises of improved delivery, improved service delivery after increased, tariff, and that's with regards petrol scarcity, petrol supply. If we remove subsidy, you pay 600 naira plus for a liter of petrol, but the petrol will then be available. You have no reasons to complain whatsoever again. It did happen, but of course, we've had back-to-back petrol scarcities after that, even while paying 600 naira per liter, of petrol. We've had, what's it called now? Electricity tariffs increased to 225 naira per unit, per kilowatt hour, and yet we still don't have the electricity. So it's just completely insane.
It's a madhouse, really. That's what it's looking like. We have Elder David calling from Alimosha. Good morning. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead with your comment. Elder David, are you still with us?
David from Alimosha, sir.
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Thank you, ma. Thank you, sir. Happy Workers' Day.
Happy Workers' Day to you as well.
Thank you very much. The issue of minimum wage, it is not the issue of the actual amount to be paid monthly. What is more important is the allowances. What of the rentage? What of the transport? What of other facilities that will be added to the salary? So if somebody is a good union leader, it's not the minimum wage that matters. The 35% the government have done, or the other percentage, is very much in order. If Ajero is actually a president of Nigerian Labour Congress, is a politician playing politics. When Oshimole was there, he did very well. I can tell you many things. I work in the railways. I'm one of those that received Dutch in 1975. I know what it is. What is more important to workers is the allowances, the transport. Then you talk of transport, you talk of housing, you talk of that facility that follow it. Not just the basic that is being paid. So if this government have actually put 35%, well, kudos to this President Enugu. It's a man who don't want people to suffer. And the workers will accept it now. And they should equally think of the pensioners. They should think of other private sectors. Yes, and it is this APC government that have increased this morning from 18,000 to 30. Some states are not even paying it today. The other day, somebody say have increased it to 70,000. That is the governor of Delta State. Ask him, of those states, Opateke. Ask him how much is he paying for the transport and others. There are some who are even building houses for the workers. So please, let us accept what the president have done. He mean well for the good of this country. The other sectors, what of those who are not working? About the job closed down, like for parastatals. Himself and the man he called Atiku.
All right, Elder David.
Nothing happened.
All right, thank you very much. Because of course we need to work with time here. Thank you very much. And of course, I like that he did mention the role of the NLC at a time like this. What are their thoughts? And of course, what steps are they taking? Are they going to be demanding more, of the salary increment? And of course, maybe you also need to x-ray, the salary increment idea. It's not necessarily an improvement in minimum wage across the country. It's for specific sectors. All right, let's go to the Vanguard newspapers, see what we can find over there.
On the front page of the Vanguard, May Day, federal government approves pay rise for workers as labor leaders lament hardship. Ask workers to prepare for struggles ahead. It's only the Nigerian workers that they ask to prepare for struggles ahead. We're not hearing the executive being asked to prepare for struggles ahead, or the legislature being asked to prepare for struggles ahead. Nigerian workers have never had it so bad, according to Atiku, says citizens subsidizing corruption, inefficiencies of federal government. Kano applauds workers' commitment to national development. Glow Lords Nigerian workers on sacrifices. Federal government declares today public holiday. Federal government putting in place measures to mitigate pains of policies, according to the APC. It'll be interesting to know what measures the federal government is putting in place to mitigate this hardship. Fuel scarcity, 8 vessels discharge over 300 million liters at Apapa, other ports. NFF wanted foreign coach, but not Finidi, according to Ikpeba. Nigeria's VAT collection lowest in Africa. That's a story that we need to look at. According to Speaker, why is Nigeria's VAT collection lowest? Sanwo-Olu restates commitment to improve lives of Lagos residents. And that's the story on the Vanguard. I think the only story that caught my eye is Nigeria's VAT collection lowest in Africa. Why do you think that is so, Osauge? Would you think it's because Nigerians are not pleased with the way things are being run, and it's almost like, what exactly are these taxes used for? They're not seeing the results.
Are you saying that, based on, does he mean the collection is low based on the number of people who are paying, or is it saying they need to increase it from 7.5%
That's
to
a valid question.
10%? So I mean, it's maybe important to be clear on what he means, but it's the lowest in Africa. Of course, you compare the minimum wage of the Nigerian society, or Nigerians rather, to minimum wage in all these other parts of the continent that he's comparing us to. So it's not just to say, and of course it's the same argument every now and then when they say, oh, look at how much petrol is in the UK, look at how much petrol is in the UAE. Why Nigerians complaining? But if you look at the minimum wage and the earning power of those, the people in those places compared to what it is here in Nigeria, you can tell, why Nigerians will complain.
Let me read what's written here, because
yeah.
I'm looking on looking into the story. It says the trend of low tax revenue coupled with a continued dependency on the increasingly unstable oil revenue presents a major risk to Nigeria's fiscal sustainability. He did also say that comparatively, Nigeria's efficiency in collecting value-added tax is the lowest among its African peers, indicating significant inefficiencies in the tax system. So I want to imagine that is the collection.
It's the collection process, which of course is still their fault. It's not just that Nigerians don't want to pay. You first of all need to create structures that capture as many Nigerians as possible, and of course then you can effectively tax them. But that is going to be hard to do. When you don't have proper structures for taxation. There's always been the argument of increasing the tax bracket, widening the tax bracket, and all of that. But I think one statement was very popular during the election campaign. One of the candidates said that you almost cannot tax Nigerians that you haven't given jobs to do. You can tax. You increase productivity and then you can tax. So if you increase the productivity, power of the average Nigerian, small and medium businesses, the civil servants and everyone, then you can tax everybody and tax as many people as possible. Nigerians do not necessarily have issues paying taxes. It is the government's responsibility to improve on the possibilities of taxing them and then also improve on, the abilities to capture as many Nigerians as possible. But if you provide the amenities that taxation brings, then absolutely Nigerians will pay.
I mean, even this UK that they complain about, and people say, oh, don't need to rush to the UK. There's a lot of them are paying, majority of their income goes to tax. But they're seeing what the tax is doing. They're seeing, the quality. Yes, that's subject to argument. But their quality of life is arguably better than what a number of people would find here in Nigeria. They have the basics, and that's what a number of Nigerians are asking for. Give us the bare basics. In 2024, I should not be praying, Lord, please, when I get home, let there be lights. In 2024, you shouldn't be praying that, oh, I would have access to a good hospital, or that, oh, I pray they'll come and fix this road soon, or this road, the pothole has been destroying my tires. There's certain things we should not be talking about in 2024, but then that's the reality of Nigerians. Let's move to our final paper for this morning. That's the Daily Trust.
The Daily Trust newspapers. Yes, the ANLC rejects 35% pay rise. I did ask just now, what's their response? Insist on living wage, which, many people would agree with, that a 35% pay rise really doesn't move the needle in any way for the average Nigerian. There has to be a living wage that through proper analysis will be suitable for the average Nigerian to stay afloat. And if the government can't afford that or doesn't have any interest in at least getting close to a living wage for the average Nigerian, then all of this, is complete waste of time, because as you increase 35%, pay rise, petrol is now selling 700 naira to 1,000 naira per litre, and that of course will increase transportation costs across the country. It will increase the cost of food items across the country. Inflation will continue to skyrocket. So, 35% pay rise almost means absolutely nothing. I don't think it's also a general pay rise across all Nigerian workers. Committee yet to submit report on minimum wage. It's the worst moment for workers, says Atiku Abubakar. Reps, NBA, students reject electricity tariff hike. After squabble for seats, Senate adjourns plenary. So you see how beautiful yesterday went? That they spent the whole day squabbling for seats, and then when they were done, they adjourned plenary. What a busy day.
A busy day, and they will get paid for that day, and they'll count that day as the day that they showed up.
Yes.
To do very important work, deliberating on who sits where.
Very true.
Very important. And it just boils down to our culture. I think that it's important that we don't throw away our culture. In Nigeria, we have a culture of respect. We respect our elders. We respect our seniors. And it's that same culture that has been translated to the Nigerian Senate, where, there's squabble about who sits where.
Yeah.
So it's a culture of respect, and I can understand that, and I can, I think we should not throw away our culture.
I mean, I don't think so, but I just feel like it's embarrassing, that these are the type of stories that are coming from National Assembly at the time like this, or from Senate at the time like this. Whoever wants to, put themselves in certain seats in the National Assembly because of how long that they stayed there, because it's also not easy to stay there that long and get people to continue to vote for you every 4 years. I get it. But whoever wants to do that, enjoy it, do that. But in 2024, at a time like this is not the time when we should be having this type of conversation on news. I know. This is not the type of time that we should be having these type of conversations from news from the Senate.
There are more important things. Things. They should just, their work there is to look for laws that will improve the quality of life Nigerians are living in. But then we have a call from Lagos. Lester, good morning. Thank you very much for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning.
Yes, please go ahead.
I just want to say this government don't have the workers in hand. So that is the only thing I would just say. They don't have what is 35% for the money they put. You can't even buy a bag of rice. Can't buy a bag of rice. So that is the only thing. They don't have the workers in hand. If they do, they will think well for the workers. That's all what I have to say. You guys are doing a good work.
Thank you. Thank you very much for calling.
And a lot of people would pretty much say the same thing. How much is 35% increase? What's, minimum 30,000 naira, 35% increase to that. And I mean, what will that really buy? I mean, how will that in any way improve on anyone's life?
35% increase will not come up to the suggested 90,000 that our guest from last week. I mean, no, it's not even up to 50,000, I think.
Not even close. So yes, everyone, pretty much, would agree with that, that this is nothing. But aside this, may they really used to be a very good day. It's almost the same thing with Children's Day. In the 90s, May Day used to be a day where there would be
a lot of jolly
gatherings in the stadium, with the governor. Children's Day used to be pretty much the same thing, where, schools will come out with their school, not uniforms per se. I think there's a particular outfit you wear, inter-house outfit, exactly.
Sometimes they wear
go to the stadium.
different traditional outfits, so maybe they represent different tribes and different cultures.
Very true. Go to the stadium, do a march past, salute, with the governor if he's present and all of that. It was a fun thing to do because back then, Nigeria was seemingly better. It was seemingly better.
It may not have better. It was better.
Yeah, it may not have been, as insane as it is currently, but or at least it wasn't necessarily, a land of milk and honey back then, but it was seemingly better. But these days, nobody has the time to do that. No workers, really have the time or the energy or the interest in going to the stadium to go and celebrate government and celebrate, Workers' Day or take your Children's Day.
Your children
there's
can
nothing to celebrate. There's absolutely nothing to celebrate. In the life of the average Nigerian today, there's nothing. There's no sector that you're going to point to that you can say, okay, this one is working, and people are excited about it.
See Happy Workers' Day celebration videos.
Good luck to them. Anyway, these are the conversations we have for you this morning across the newspapers. We've taken all 4 of them. Thanks to everyone who called us and joined the conversations this morning. Remember, you could always tweet at us, at any time during the show, at News Central TV. Let's know your thoughts on these stories if you weren't able to get through the phone lines. We'll continue conversations this morning, but right after this very short break.
What could have been a day of Thanksgiving following an upward review of workers' welfare and easy commute to and from the workplace seems to have been tainted with poor salaries, fuel scarcity, exorbitant food prices, and increased job losses. May 1st is known as Workers' Day, but sadly, the workers, rather than celebrate this day, are groaning in pain. There seems to be a disparity in the minimum wage dispute from state to state, as a few governors claim to have increased remuneration while others have not.
The president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, Comrade Joe Ajero, in his pre-May Day speech said, people should be at the heart of every policy. Society suffers adversely without making it the center of every government policy. Former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has, of course, expressed his sadness towards Nigerian workers. He said the current policies hinder proper welfare. Is this a Workers' Day to be proud of? That's a question many Nigerians are asking. And of course, we have asked multiple times on the show this morning, is this a Workers' Day that you are excited about? As a Nigerian civil servant, or even someone in the private sector, are you excited about where we are today as the millions of people who make the Nigerian workforce? How, much easier or harder have things become for you? The NLC, of course, rejected a 35% pay increase by the Nigerian government, which, of course, was used to launch May Day. They are asking for a living wage instead, at least a figure that represents what the average Nigerian should be able to survive on every month, not 35%, increase. And I mentioned earlier, that my question really always, when I see these things happen, is what really is the end game? Because the government has made promises. It has, made declarations. It has said, this or that. They've made appointments. But what we're seeing is that things are just getting worse. The Naira, it's in the worst state that it has ever been. Of course, salaries, are extremely low. Petrol prices are extremely high. Electricity prices are extremely high. Gas is also selling pretty high. So what exactly is getting better in Nigeria? Like, is there any sector in the whole country now that people can lean onto and say, okay, at least we are getting this side better. We're getting maybe infrastructure. Yeah, security, I can say, okay, yeah, there's been, improvement, even if, mostly because we haven't heard of major kidnappings in the last, couple of weeks or maybe, months. But aside that, with the reality of the average Nigerians, living standards, what really is better? And where are we headed? Like, do we have a plan? Does the Nigerian government currently have a plan that it has properly detailed to Nigerians that this is what we are doing? When the president says that we're in gestation stage, that this is what we're doing, these are things that we need to do for now, give us a 2-year time frame, give us a 3-year time frame, and we can see that things would be a lot better. We would have been able to make these adjustments, might have been tough in the beginning, but now 3 years down the line, it is better. Is there any statement like that? Is there any promise like that Nigerians can lean to and say, okay, we're only going to deal with this for 2 years. We're only going to have, because it doesn't seem like it. And we've not, I don't remember any times that I've seen inspiring statements or speeches from the current Nigerian government and its representatives.
It comes back
ministers
to
and the likes.
The KPI conversation that we always have on the show here, and being able to assess those who are there to serve us, because primarily what they're there for is not for their own personal goals or their own personal achievements. They're there to serve the Nigerian people, but we've always talked about the fact that we don't necessarily have KPIs by which we can measure them. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, we had the representative, the People's Democratic Party official flag bearer for, I believe it's Ondo State. And we're asking him to give us a timeline of when he will make the effects in the state if he emerges as governor over Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa. And he couldn't give us an exact time frame. And it's not a reflection on him in particular. It's what we've seen, is a system that we've seen from the federal level to the state level. Nobody is able to say, okay, this problem that Nigerians are facing, I will solve this problem by doing this and this and this within this time frame. And, you can hold me to my word. We only do the ceremonial 100 days in office. And in most cases, there hasn't really been much impact done. Then they will tell you that, oh, you can't expect that we'll undo the damage that was done in 8 years in 100 days. Yeah. So when can we really hold you to account to say, this is, it's time up for you to actually have made some impact?
Yeah, and of course, we're expecting the Deputy President of the TUC, Dr. Tomi Timokoni, is meant to be joining us this morning to, of course, share his perspectives from the TUC's perspective, the Trade Union Congress perspective. Do they accept the 35% increase? Are they excited about where Nigerian workers are today or not? So hopefully that also comes up this morning. But the big question really is, what is the reality of the average Nigerian and where are we going? And these are the questions that these workers need to be asking their governors, when they get to the stadium at any point and having that, government address or having that march passed. What is the plan? Where are we going? Where are the investments that are being made to ensure that in a few years things will be better? It cannot just be that you've ended petrol subsidy and that's it. That's all that we have to offer. There's absolutely, share with us, as a government representative, as the president, let us have a presidential media chat as we used to have it back in the days.
In fact, we need to start making those things mandatory. It should be actually mandatory that before you get into office, before they vote you, there'll be a media chat. There'll be, and not in Chatham House, or in Nigeria here.
Yeah, it's not just prior to the elections. I'm talking about even after being elected. You should have a presidential media chat that happens every month at least. Where you're speaking with Nigerians, it is not pushing it.
Maybe every quarter.
It's not pushing it. You're speaking with the people that elected you into office. It's not pushing it to sit down for 1 hour or 2 hours and speak with journalists. You cannot be that busy and the country is such a mess. So, it's not pushing it, asking that you have a conversation with journalists. Speak with Nigerians. Let us know what exactly the plan is. Where are we headed? What is the plan? There are people who are grumbling and weeping because of the destruction of their property at the landmark beach resort.
Like you said,
what is the plan?
What is the plan? Where are we headed? These are a few of the questions that are being asked. And this morning, again, we're going to ask further questions as we say, which way Nigeria?
I'll start today's Which Way Nigeria by asking, do you wish President Tinubu success? Or do you wish him and his government failure? Are you that very patriotic Nigerian, who wishes success for Mr. President or maybe even your governor? Or are you that dark-hearted, unpatriotic citizen who wishes them failure? Now, let me share with you the tweet that inspired today's topic on Which Way Nigeria. This was, posted by Dr. Aloy Chife, and it says, no true Nigerian patriot wants Tinubu to fail, regardless of his path to the throne. And political differences, the overall interest of the nation is paramount. Goes on to say that what we want to see is a coherent, workable, plan to change our fortunes. Fundamental structural changes are imperative. And as always, you know, it got a ton of responses from those for and against. And so I ask again, do you wish the president success? Which means, of course, you know, success for Project Nigeria. Or do you wish otherwise? Today's Which Way Nigeria is directed at those who believe that it is your duty as a citizen to always wish your country and government and leaders well, because that shows how patriotic you are and how much you love your country. They believe that as a patriotic citizen, you must continue to stand by your leaders, wish them success, because it in turn translates into wishing your country well. And if they succeed based on your wishes, then we all will benefit. This isn't new. If you remember earlier in 2023, the saying, "This government will favor me and my family in Jesus' name," was very popular. In fact, a lot of people said it. So many people used it as a way to signify patriotism and best wishes for their country and for themselves, regardless of what state the country was for. If you go back even earlier, if you remember the Nigeria Air, chaos, where people wished Nigeria Air success. You look at this one from Buki Shonibare. Wishing Nigeria Air success, and of course went on to even defend her continuous wishing of Nigeria Air's success. She posted, a while later, defending and saying the reasons that she wished Nigeria Air success. But fast forward a few years later, and we can all see how that turned out. Your wishes are irrelevant. Now, I should say there's nothing wrong with wishing. Everyone has wishes, and I personally, wish to own one of the world's biggest media companies someday. That's my wish. And you equally have yours. But that will never materialize just because you wished it. That will never materialize simply because you have positive affirmations about yourself. The same way a great Nigeria, with constant electricity, with good transportation infrastructure, good and affordable healthcare, affordable housing, security, better salaries, a system that works, an electoral system that you can trust, a Niger Delta that isn't covered with poverty and militants, another Nigeria that isn't the home of kidnappers and terrorists, retirees in their 80s getting their pensions, and so much more, wouldn't just happen because patriotic citizens wish the government well and success. Again, your wishes are irrelevant. These things would happen regardless of how and what the citizens wished. If the people responsible for better governance actually do their jobs, from the executive to judiciary to legislative, from the federal to state and local government, from the president to the governor to commissioners, ministers to lawmakers, no matter what you wish them, no matter how much you wish them success, if they are not interested in actually succeeding, you are simply deceiving yourself. If the Minister of Power and all other factors responsible don't take it upon themselves to ensure Nigeria generates and distributes 50,000 megawatts of electricity by a certain time frame, maybe 2027, maybe 2030, your wishes are again useless, regardless of what it is that you wish and how positive you want to be. So don't let anyone guilt trip you into wishing these people success and make you feel like an unpatriotic citizen because you wish the government failure. Because listen, even if you wish them failure and they actually plan and work and put in the necessary effort into ensuring that we have a better country, we will have a better country regardless of the number of people who have wished them failure. Some of history's greatest presidents and leaders had many people wishing them failure. They had thousands of people working against them, constantly praying that they fail. I'm talking Abraham Lincoln, Nelson Mandela, Lee Kuan Yew. All these people had both local, domestic, and international, presence wishing them failure. But did they fail? No, they didn't. And so it is irrelevant whether you want President Tinubu to fail or not. His success or failure is going to be by his own design and how much he does what is necessary for a great nation to emerge. No nation was ever built through positive affirmations. Good morning, Nigerians.
Very well said. No matter how much you aspire to perspire, to acquire, to maguire, you can never refire. It sounds like, but that's really how a lot of all these motivational speeches sound. And while motivation is great, even the Holy Book says faith without work is dead.
Yeah, but that's why I also have to add the part that even if you wish them failure, Like if I wake up every morning and say, I swear this government must fail, I wish you failure as a president, I wish you, it doesn't matter. If the president or the governors or whoever it is, put in what it needs to be done for a nation to succeed.
It will succeed regardless of your
exactly.
wishes.
My wishes rather irrelevant. So these conversations happened on social media a couple of days ago, and people were, trying to make people feel bad that you're not patriotic. Exactly, you're not wishing. And they had to be reminded that it doesn't matter what you wish the president.
If wishes were horses, beggars were right. Well, that does it for our package today. Our Work is the episode on Breakfast Central. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope that the fuel scarcity situation is resolved sooner than later, and that a number of you are able to make it to work. And just to say to employers of labor, in these very harsh times, I'm hoping that employers of labor are able to employ means to ensure that life is not so difficult for their staff. So if your staff doesn't have to come to work every day, please let them work from home. You can reduce it to 3 times a week, reduce the number of times, put them on a rotation basis, whatever you need to do to make life easier for your employees. It's just us looking out for each other, because it's really hard times for everyone. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. I am Olive Emodi.
And happy Workers' Day from me. I am Osaogie Ogbawan. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.